So if you haven't joined our social media groups yet, please do so. On Facebook, I think it's Native Creators from Festival Bridge. Please follow us on Twitter, Festival Bridge, or at Langascoff Jen with the hashtag Native Creatives. The jamble will be open at the end as always. Please take a couple of minutes to put your sticky notes in. I don't think I need to say anything else because you've all been here before. So what I'd really like to do is just get on with introducing our very special guest on this final day of Native Creatives. So I'm really, really pleased that Laura Jones has joined us from Stopgap Dance. She is a fierce advocate for dance and disability, inclusion and equality, advancing the sector through teacher training in inclusive practice, public speaking and consultancy work. Laura joined Stopgap Dance Company, an integrated contemporary dance company in 2001, where she's been integral to the growth and direction of the company. This includes 2 terms as interim artistic director in 2016 and 18, and she became head of talent development in 2017. Her extensive training, teaching experience ranges across all ages and ability, with a passion for empowering future generations of diverse dancers. She has been instrumental in the development of Stopgap's Iris dance syllabus for disabled dancers and the Seedbed teacher training programme. She has accumulated a wealth of experience working with numerous choreographers and performing globally in both traditional and non-traditional settings. She choreographed the Heritage Flame ceremony for the Rio 2016 Paralympic handover, and as dance captain assisted in the choreography and teaching of the mass volunteer cast for the London 2012 Paralympic Games opening ceremony. She's on the board of trustees for East London Dance and English Folk Dance and Song Society, where she has a focus on artist safeguarding and diversity. It gives me enormous pleasure to welcome Laura to our final day of Native Creatives. So Laura, thank you. It's over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, give me one moment. I do have a PowerPoint to share, so you get to see some pictures as well as looking at my face. There we go, lovely. And I think if I just do that, then I should be able to see you as well. Okay, so yes, thank you very much for that introduction. Kind of covers a lot of it. I'm going to be doing this session today is about my inclusive practice within Stopgap, and particularly focusing on open language. And as Jen said, I'm Laura Jones. Brief audio description of myself. I have brunette, wavy hair that's now just past my shoulder length. Today I'm wearing a grey hoodie and dark grey jogging bottoms, and you can't see it in the screen at the moment, but if I wheel back, you can see that I'm in my wheelchair and I'm in my lounge with beige wallpaper behind me with big kind of duck egg kind of flowers on it. Yes, and I'm head of talent development with Stopgap Dance Company. And at Stopgap we have, well, I've put this into 2 different categories, and I realise really there's a third. But Stopgap, if you don't know, Stopgap Dance Company is an inclusive dance company which employs disabled and non-disabled dancers and artists. We have 3 strands to our work. We have our professional practice. So I've included a couple of pictures there from our most recent theatre production. The top one is The Enormous Room, which the picture includes the cast of diverse dancers there. They're in a kind of party type poses, disco poses, including Nadam in a wheelchair at the front, tipping to the side and reaching out. And then below it is from Artificial Things, which in the picture there's David and Amy, who are non-disabled dancers, leaping through the air, and I'm between them doing a wheelie. So we have that, we perform, we tour to venues, both traditional venues, non-traditional venues, at least when, you know, COVID isn't a thing, we do. We also have our community side of our work, where we have youth companies, and we work within the communities, going into schools, day centres, different organisations, and sharing our inclusive practice there. And I've included a couple of pictures of our community, Sherry, our community dance artist, working with a diverse group of young dancers. We also, I say there's three, there's a third string, is our advocacy work, working on advancing the sector to make it more accessible for everyone. And yet there is a crossover between the work that we do, our community work and our professional work. We use some of the same tools, some of the same ways to create access within our work, in our professional practice and our community practice. And we're particularly passionate about inclusion and integration, because we believe that inclusion elevates all. By working inclusively, it doesn't just benefit those who may be diverse, maybe have a disability, it benefits everyone, including yourself. Like when you work inclusively, I believe it makes your teaching practice stronger. And so the kind of not such a secret that working inclusively, inclusive practice is really just good practice. So by using some of the tools and considerations that you would use to make a session more accessible and inclusive, it can improve your teaching overall. And so today, the thing that I'd like to focus on to give you a little kind of insight into one of the tools that we use when we're creating dance. Don't worry if you're not dancers either for this session, it's fine. It's about kind of moving and understanding how the language that we use affects the way we move. This is something that can also be transferable into other art forms. When you think about the language you use and how it either opens up and enables or closes and excludes. So we're going to do a little experiment. If you feel comfortable to, it would be lovely if you put your cameras on. There is no pressure, but it would be lovely to see you moving a little bit. It's not dancing yet. And if you have space, equally, I know some of us, we are in limited space at the moment. So if you've not got the space or if you don't feel like moving today, that's fine. Maybe just I'll give the instructions and you can think about how it would make you move if you were to move. So the first instruction is, the instruction is to, I would invite you to, oh, I'll go back one, invite you to walk about your room. Either, if you're able, do feel free to have a walk about your room. See how that instruction sits with you. How does that feel? How does it make you move? If you're not moving, if you're just thinking about it, or maybe you're watching some of the others on the screen, think about how you would move or how they are moving. Is it interesting? Is it something that you are able to do? Is it something that potentially your students would be able to do? So that's the first instruction. Walk around, walk is very closed language. So if you want to pause, you can pause for a moment. Often when we think about walking, the kind of what we tend to, our minds go straight to is one able foot in front of another at a steady pace. And that's quite exclusive because, well, for example, I use a wheelchair, I can't walk. But it's also a kind of a not very interesting language. So it excludes, but it's also not particularly descriptive. So I'm going to give you some other options other than walk. So we're going to try some of these open language options. First of all, try just moving around your space. How would you move around if the instruction was to just move around? How does that vary to the instruction to walk around? How would you move around your space? And then these ones have a little bit more quality and detail. Have a wander. Can you wander around your space? How does that change? Then what about a saunter? Does it change if you have a saunter around your space? And then my particular favorite is strut. How are you going to move if you strut? Bit of attitude, bit more energy, bit more confidence maybe with the way you move. How can you strut? Nice. And then finally, trudge. How would you trudge around your space? There's a completely different weight. Yeah, it's heavy. Maybe you're sunken in your chest, kind of like, weight down and kind of maybe slightly closed language. Lovely. And then come back to your screen. Super. Thank you for that little bit of moving. So I'd like you to invite you, either if you want to unmute or if you want to pop it in the chat. How was that for you? What was the difference between the walk? How did being asked to walk around the space, how did that feel different to the other instructions? What did you notice? Now I have to look for chat. Walk is controlled. Yes. Any other? If you don't want to type, because I know certainly for me typing takes a long time. If you want to just unmute, that's fine.
I would say that are we talking about the walking or the next?
The walking, yeah, both the walk, but also how it compared to the other ones. What was different about them?
There was more to think about, I guess, in the second bits, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm, yeah. More personality with the open language. Yeah, absolutely. More, it becomes a very mindful thing. You're more aware of your own body through the space. Yeah, so actually, I think as well with walk, we have such preconceived ideas about it, but it's also something that the majority of us do without even thinking. So when you're walking around the space, if you're able to, you're not really truly thinking about how your body is moving. But if you're being asked to strut or saunter or meander, there's so much more detail, there's so much more quality within those words. Much more fun doing the open ones. Yeah. And yeah, actually, you can actually get into it. It's not as kind of plain and dull. Yeah, so that's the kind of with the open language. Not only is it non-exclusive, so everyone in the space was able to do these, even if you're not able to use your legs. Actually, they're also non-body part specific, because we would talk about someone's eyes wandering around the room. So you could have a wander around the room, but while staying stationary. So it's non-exclusionary, but also where I said inclusion elevates all, it actually elevated everyone and gave everyone a bit more of an interesting way of moving or a bit more quality to work with. So I think we're going to do the next one. We'll go a little bit quicker through the next one, and it's quite similar, but a different pace. So again, if you fancy doing it, join in. If you fancy just thinking about it, that's fine. So where's me? I always lose my mouse at this point. There we are. Closed language, run around your room. Being careful, because you might have a very small space. If you're able to, if you want to, go for a quick run around your room. How do you move there? Yeah, probably very similar to walk, but a bit faster. A little bit more energy, maybe. So, but again, that's quite closed language. That is, again, the kind of, we have the preconceived idea that is one able foot in front of another. So, other suggestions, how else we could move? We could shift around the space. If you have a shift, that maybe has a little bit more speed, but it's also not got quite that much quality. So what about dart? Maybe if you don't want to use your whole body, can you dart with some body parts? Dart with your eyes? Can you dash? Dash from one side to the other? What about zoom? or whoosh. You whoosh through the space. Excellent. And then come back to the screen. So again, hopefully that's kind of a very similar process, that the run, it's kind of basic and a bit plain, a bit faster, but still plain. But actually with the shift, yeah, but dart, dash, zoom, zip, whoosh, these words all have so much more quality and energy behind them than just run. So this is one of the things, that actually thinking carefully about the words you use, how can you make sure that they are inclusive, that they don't exclude anyone, but also they add a bit more quality and a bit more personality potentially. So just keeping an eye on the time. So then just to say like a little bit about, to kind of clarify what I've already been saying. So what is open language? It's language that includes and enables everyone to participate to their full potential rather than excludes. It's usually non-body part specific and may have a quality or texture associated with it. And why is it important? What are the benefits? As I've been saying, it enables everyone to follow the same set of instructions in their own way. So when you're giving instructions, you're not having to single anyone out because they have a different way of moving. I have been in dance sessions where I'm the only wheelchair user in the dance session, and the person leading the session has said, everyone run around the space, and Laura wheel round the space. Everyone rise, Laura do a wheelie. Okay, that I don't need to be reminded that I am different. I don't need to be given always a different set of instructions. Finding instructions that work for everyone, that everyone can relate to and find their own variation of, helps to create a much more cohesive group.
Laura, sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask a question? What would you, in that, when you've been in that situation before, is it, would you rather the teacher or the instructor didn't say anything to you, didn't single you out at all, and you just coped with the knew in the way that you knew how to do it, like the activity?
I think the ideal one would be that there was an instruction that meant worked for everyone, that they could find a way to make their instructions universal. There may be times where maybe some people need a little bit more information, maybe to help translate their movement, they might need a little bit more support, particularly if they're not used to dancing or moving with their body. Maybe they need a little bit more encouragement and a bit more detail. But actually often that detail might be something that is useful for everyone else. So one of the things that we talk about when we're translating movement is finding the intention of the movement. So rather than specifically saying what the shape of the movement is, if you explain why you're doing the movement, so it might be, we're going to dart about the space because we need to get our bodies warm. Then actually, even if you're not feeling like you're truly darting, if you know that you're getting your body warm, then you also know that you've achieved what the intended outcome was. So yeah, that's the other sort of thing that can go with it, is the sharing the intention of your instructions or the movement. Yeah. And so, yeah, this idea of open language, it's something we use at Stopgap, both in our professional practice and our community work, and both for technique. It can be quite helpful to unlock technique with this idea of, rather than thinking of, say, if you're doing traditional dance moves, like you're doing ballet and a plie, that there's a preconception then that is a plie is with the legs and it's a bend in the legs. But actually, is there, if you give the instruction, the intention is that we're going to change level, or the intention is that we're going to find a melt or a sink, then you can find ways that you can give the opportunity to for everyone to find their own version. Yes. Okay, so what I would like to do if is I'd like to show a way of doing it in using these open language words in a creative manner. So I've got some words here, and actually I've realized what I haven't done. Can I copy them? I'm going to, Jen, would you be able to copy those into the chat? Because I'm going to stop the slideshow, and then, but so we've still got them in the chat. That would be helpful. But as you're doing that, I'll explain. We're going to, as a group, work together and find some moves for these words. So again, it would be lovely if you're able to pop your cameras back on so we can see them and see your moves and share the moves. Because what I would like to do is we're going to work through each word, and you can find your own version of that word. And then maybe we're going to have a look and see if there's anything that someone has particularly done that we might like to take on to our own movement to help develop our movement for that word. And then we're going to put them all together and have a little dance sequence. Yes, so please don't be shy to put your camera on. It'll be lovely to see your moves. Thank you, Emma. Yay. Anyone else? I know that like there's, you know, we've all got weird backgrounds and we're in like random places, but can I confirm that it's just that because where it's been recorded, people aren't going to be in the recording? Is that? Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be in the recording. I think
it's
us who are spotlighted. I do know that one of our participants has had her second jab today and is not feeling great. So I think that's probably a reason for not having the camera.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. As long as you're just kind of like, you know, taking it in, that's absolutely fine. Okay. So we're going to start. I'm going to now stop this share, and we're going to, and I'm going to open up the chat so I can see. So we're going to find a stir. So it can be anywhere on your body, doesn't matter where. Find a stir. Maybe have a little bit of a play thinking about like stirring honey, stirring Christmas pudding. Not quite the right season for that. Can you stir with different parts of your body? Yeah, what works for you as a stir? Let's see some stirring. Ah, yeah, lovely. Got, yeah, definite like stirring Christmas. I really like Suva. You've got like too many stirs going on. Can everyone find their stir but make it like mini ones? So it might be that you're doing the same body parts. It might be that you're doing too many ones with your elbows, your shoulders, too many stirs. Too mini stirs, not too many stirs. So stir, we're going to do little stirs together like this. Yeah, lovely. Fantastic. That's the first move. The next move is slide. So it might think about like you're sliding down a slide. Might be sliding down a surface. You might be sliding down your body. So you can slide down your body. Find some kind of slide. What works for you as a slide? Let's have a look for some slide. Yeah, I quite like this. And I apologise if I pronounce your name wrong as well. Is it Hoi? I like because your slide has a kind of like it the journey it goes on. So it kind of goes up and down and up. So there's a bit of like a weight in your slide. So can everyone, don't have to change your slide, but find a bit of a kind of weight and kind of journey. It helps me if I make sounds. Nice. So we're going to do our stir together. So 2 mini stirs. And then our slide. Whoosh. Nice. And then open. Can you do a movement that opens? Yes, something. It might just be small. Could just be opening your eyes, opening your mouth. Open like a fold in the body. I really like Georgia. You like sent your energy up. So can you make whatever your open is, kind of send it open and up? Lovely. Doesn't matter if it doesn't look exactly the same, but it's about sending energy up as you open. Lovely, loving that. So we have our stir, mini stirs, our slide going, our open, sending the energy up. Gorgeous, very nice. And then a drop, something that drops. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be your entire body. Could just be like a drop in the head, drop in the elbow. Let's see some drops. Yes, I liked. So the name says Ryan, but I'm assuming that in blue, you did a drop with your head. Can we? Yeah, can we? We were gonna kind of do. There was a nice little. The weight to it was really clear, so you can find that bit of drop and weight. Lovely, nice. So we're going to go from the top. We have a stir, mini stirs. We have a slide. We have open, sending our energy up. Nice. We have a drop that's really heavy. Nice. Lovely. We're going to do 2 more because it's almost 5 past. So you can find your own twist. Just whatever you want to do as a twist, however many twists you want to do. Let's do a bit of a twist. Might have a few twists. And then finishing with a flick. Whatever flick you want to do today. Nice. Yeah. Oh, I'm liking the hair flicking as well. Let's go all together from the top, from the mini stirs. Here we go. Mini stirs. Mini stirs. The slide with a and then send the energy up and open. Find a heavy drop. Then find your own twists and twists and your own flicks. Flick. Very nice. Lovely. Okay. It's like 4 minutes past. That was super. I'm just going to very quickly go back to the slides to show that that was one version of open language. There's lots of other ways that we can use it, kind of getting more complex or less complex. This one is, I created it as a score. So you've got pictures there to help, and you've got different lines of movement. So you can work through each line together with using the different textures. And then if you want to get more complex still, there's a kind of, this is then with set counts for lots of 8. And you see how some of the words go over more than 1 count. And there's a few like hand. There's 2 hands for the 1 count. So that's to kind of demonstrate that this, the idea of open language can be used for, can vary from very complex to less complex, depending on who you're working with, what you're wanting to achieve with the group. Yes, okay. And then you should, I believe, all have been sent out the slides. So you can see there are a few links at the end that you might want to follow and click on to find out a little bit more about our work and what we do. We've got the Beginner's Guide, Stopgap's Beginner's Guide to Inclusive Dance Teaching, which is a really excellent series of videos that leads you through how to create a session, a dance session. And then I had to put it in, as I mentioned at the start, that inclusive practice is good practice. There is a film that Parable Dance have put together, bringing experts from the inclusive dance world together to share advice ideas and tips on inclusive practice. And that is everything. Fab. Okay.
So much. Thank you so much, Laura. That was brilliant. I loved it. I loved doing the movements. And actually, you know, for us who often are sitting looking at screens, that was really energizing. So thank you very, very much. I really liked when you were talking about this kind of sharing of intentions rather than, you know, instructing about what the actual thing's going to be. And I think actually that's applicable to so many different areas of life, isn't it? Everybody's interpretation of one thing is going to be very different. So if you share your intention for what you want to happen, it can be really powerful. I thought it was really interesting. I wonder, I hope we've got some questions from our participants. Is there anything, guys, that you would like to ask Laura in terms of connecting to your work with your pupils, or work that you are doing in your own practice, or anything that you would like advice with? Julie, did you see that from Julie?
Yes, I did. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry, Julie. That's absolutely fine. Yes, so thank you. Sorry, I had to have my camera off as I have 3 young kids hovering in the background. But I was joining in. Good. Pleased to hear it. Brilliant.
Perhaps they got involved as well. Maybe they were.
Yeah, did they join in? Did they find some slides and some whooshes and things? I hope so.
So is there anything that we could, any of you teachers would like to put to Laura as she is here with us today?
Laura, how do you help some of the young people understand some of those words? How might you break down the meaning? I know it's open, you want it to be open to interpretation, but I'm just visualizing some of the young people I work with, and I'm just going, I have no idea what it is you're asking me there. Would you, you know how you did with us, you kind of modeled a few examples. Would you do that and hope they'd be inspired? And then
yeah, absolutely. There's various different ways. It depends partly on how much time you have. Obviously, I was kind of like wanting to try and create show both a way to build a sequence of movement and how you might and different words that you might use. So we kind of did it fairly quickly. It might be that you spend a lot more of the session. So it could be, for example, that you start with introducing some of these words in your warm-up, but maybe it could be, for example, stir is generally circular. You might start with going, okay, let's do some circles, and then introduce this idea of the texture of, actually, can we now make those circles really thick? Imagine we've got honey. You might even bring in honey. One of our home practice sessions, in fact, the session that comes out this coming Monday, I'm doing it's a very accessible, should be very accessible session on textures. So I use honey, I use like a chewy, stretchy kind of gooey thing. I use this wonderful like sand stuff that kind of crumbles. And so using props as a way in to explore movement can be really helpful, because then it's something they can see, they can potentially touch. Sometimes when we're working with Zoom, sometimes you can get little video clips to show, maybe it's something like it about flowing. Maybe you might show a clip of some flowing water or something. So sometimes it's visual.
Thank you.
And sometimes it's like giving suggestions of kind of, well, I'm going to do it like this, or it makes me think of this, and how might that work for you? Yeah. Does that answer? And don't feel like you all have to like introduce loads and loads and loads of words all at once. You might spend one session just working on what slide is, how slides feel.
That would be an interesting thing, actually, wouldn't it? To have one whole session just based around one word, whatever the ability or physical ability of your students are. To have just one word could be really interesting, couldn't it? It could open up so much more, couldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else? Would anyone else like to ask Laura about the session today, or about her own practice, or about anything more about Stopgap? I think everybody's a little bit zoomed out now from 5 sessions of native creatives. I really enjoyed that, Laura. I enjoyed it so much. I want to see more of what you do, and I'm going to go and have a look at some of the things that you've posted onto the slides. I think they look really, really interesting. And I know you've done some work with North Norwich Festival, haven't you, as well? Was that this year that you did that?
So work with
North Norwich Festival. You've done.
Yes, years now, because last year was like didn't happen. Yeah, we did a couple of years ago. We did we brought our Seafarers production to Norfolk and Norwich, and then the year after that, which was probably 2019, we did frock and frippery. So we was working with various different schools and dance groups in the area with mixed ability young people to create a performance together.
Great. Well, if no one else has got, oh, sorry, Laura, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, occurred to me, shameless plug, if you're interested also in learning more about the Stopgap's ethos and the way we teach, and also teaching for different groups of young dancers, there is the Beginner's Guide to Inclusive Dance. We also have a course called Seedbed, and I have to say it because we've just, like yesterday, I was working out the dates for September. So it's a course. It's going to be mainly evening sessions via Zoom, but with a few in-person sessions, and it guides you through. There are guest teachers with different lived experiences of different disabilities, and sharing how to work with dance with those within those different lived experiences, and also the kind of Stopgap ethos and inclusive approach. And yes, do also look for that if you're interested.
Thank you. I think Georgia has just put all the details into the chat box if anybody would like them. But that's brilliant. Thanks so much for joining us today, Laura. That was so interesting. I've said a huge amount, and I hope everyone else has too. Participants, if you would be kind enough just to go back into the Jamboard link, which Georgia has put into the chat box now, and flick along onto Laura's page, where you can leave some feedback on a sticky note about what you why you came to the session, what you gained from it, and what you'd like to see in the future for native creatives or from speakers like Laura. That would be really fantastic. But I hope you're all able to join us in the second session with Dr. Claire Penketh. I know Laura's going to come and join us as well. Thank you very, very much, and thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you very much.